Wichita World Trade Council. We've got a very exciting program lined up tonight. We've got a tremendous keynote speaker, and then we'll have some proclamations. As many of you may know, this is World Trade Week, so we'll have proclamations from the governor's and the mayor's office. We've got an award to present in recognition of outstanding international business, and then we'll have some distinguished closing remarks. In the way of news tonight from the World Trade Council, I'm very pleased to announce to you, many of you know that our chairman of many years, Dr. Dharma De Silva, who ably led us and was a great inspiration for many years, passed away earlier this year. But we have, by the unanimous election of the executive board, an interim chairman, Mr. Roger Hubble. Roger will be taking over the leadership. I'm sure that the Wichita World Trade Council will continue the legacy that has been left to us by Dr. Dharma De Silva. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, President John Bardo of Wichita State University. Now, normally, introducing someone as distinguished as Dr. Bardo, I would have a very long list of his academic achievements, and I offered him the opportunity to read those off, and he said, you know, he doesn't really need that. He's about more than academics, although he is a very sound academician. His innovation campus is really about putting together the university and the business community and the rest of the community. And so I'm not going to go through and do that. I'm going to accede to his wishes and date myself because I understand his introduction. Without further ado, here's Johnny!
Thanks, Ted. I really appreciate that. Yeah, for those of you too young to remember, that was one of my favorite shows. I just love watching that. Thank you. Thank you all. And Dima, thank you for the honor of having dinner with you. I greatly appreciate that. That is, I consider it a great personal honor, and we will all miss Dharma continue every day. So thank you. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing on the Innovation Campus, but I want to put it in a broader context because this is a chess piece. It may be the queen, but it is not the game. And it is part of a set of moves that we're making as an institution to try to bring checkmate to those people who want to compete with us. And so understand that this is a very visible part of what we're doing, but it's not the only piece, and it may actually not even be the most important piece, but it is an important piece. For those of you that follow athletics, you know that we moved to the American Athletic Conference from the Missouri Valley. Now, thank you. Everybody but our women's basketball coach may be really happy with that. Since Connecticut is in the American, and they only won 111 games in a row. We will have. I bet we have a full house first time they come to town. We will bet. So, why did we go to the American? Well, it'll be better basketball. We aren't going to win many games by 30. But you know, if we're big in Evansville, nobody notices. And if somebody says, well, you people, you're no better than Dallas. Oh, okay. I'm good. Well, you people are, you're like Cincinnati and Memphis and Dallas and Houston. Oh, okay, I'm good. When we were in the Missouri Valley, according to the National Science Foundation, we had more research dollars than any other university in the Missouri Valley, followed by Southern Illinois with a medical school, followed by Illinois State, which had 1/3 the research dollars we take in. In the American Conference, we're in the middle. And the American Conference has in its schools like Houston, like SMU, like Tulsa, along the I-35 corridor, where if we ship goods from Wichita, we ship them either overseas or to Kansas City, Oklahoma City, and Dallas. The American aligns with our aspirations as a university to be perceived as a major research university, but it aligns with where our economy ships goods.
Yeah.
So, do I care about being big in Evansville? Not so much. I like Evansville, it's a great town, but not so much. Do I care about being big in Dallas, the economic centroid of the I-35 region? Darn right I do. And so this is more about the positioning of the university than it is about athletics. It's more about what happens to our economy. It's more about what happens to our city. It's more about what happens to our graduates than it is about basketball. Drives my athletic director nuts. But the reality is, to me, it was an academic decision, not an athletics decision. To him, obviously, it was an athletics decision. So, anyway, that's just so you're aware, this is all part of a bigger picture. So, let's see if I get this sucker to work. Maybe if I turn it the right way. There we go. So, Wichita State University needs to be the model for applied learning. To know is one thing, to do is another, and to know why you're doing is a third thing yet. And that's what we're really trying to accomplish when we talk about applied learning. It's not just about knowing, it's not just about doing, but it's being able to say, I know why I'm doing that, and hey, you know what? That might relate over here too, and over here too, and over here too. And so it changes fundamentally the quality of education you can give a student. We want to be an economic, cultural, and dominating driver for South Central Kansas. To do so, we have created an innovation campus that's about helping new ideas flourish. It's about business competitiveness, and it's about the competitiveness of our workforce so that we can diversify our economic base and create an innovation zone around the university that becomes a hub of activity that has global impact. If you read Bruce Katz's stuff from Brookings, you're going to find it looks a whole lot like what we're trying to do with our innovation campus. Bruce hadn't written at the time we started all of this, but there are 55 of these kind of developments around the United States, and we're trying to be a very successful one of them. So, I want to be sure everyone also understands what economic development is, because this name is this word, these two words are thrown around so much that everybody kind of, oh yeah, that's economic development. Maybe, maybe. Economic development is about enhancing wealth through broad segments of the population, and in so doing, increasing the quality of life and increasing the capacity of the community of which you are a part. There's a big difference between economic growth and economic development. There can be economic growth that is detrimental to the community. The example I like to use, because it's kind of fun, is think about the salt mines in and around Hutchinson. We can make a whole lot of money as a state by becoming the nuclear waste dump for the world. Put all that nuclear waste right down there in those salt mines. And it'd be great. You wouldn't even have to go outdoors to roast your hot dogs, right? Just hold those suckers up, right? So it'd create a lot of money. It would. It'd create a lot of economic growth. Would you want to be part of it? Would you want to live near it? Would you want to be around it? And so that is economic growth. Economic development is economic growth that has real consequences in a positive way for the community. And so what our interest is economic development, not economic growth. All economic development involves economic growth, but not all economic growth involves economic development. Okay, so What are we looking to do? Net broad-based job creation, private sector wealth, and global competitiveness. That's what we're about. That's what we're trying to do. Now, what do we know? Good economic development is based in land use economics. One thing that drives me nuts, and I'm old enough I can say that, is I'm going to make an investment in that part of town and that's going to change the world. Yeah, no, it's not. You're going to waste a whole lot of money. You know what? We're going to become the biggest submarine base in the Midwest. We're going to dig a channel all the way down to the Gulf, and we know the Navy's going to run those suckers right up here, and we're going to be rich. Yeah, good luck with that. All right, so it's got to be based in land use economics. You've got to account for what's already happening and to make investments to assure that it is enhanced and that the quality works. I can't force you to do something, but if you're going to locate your business somewhere, I can help you do a better job of it. And that's economic development. Second, it's about competitiveness. How do we get better? How do we better compete? It's about policy and investments that tie to market conditions. You don't make the investments as if it doesn't matter. I'm going to get that submarine base and I don't care what the market says. I control the taxes, by God, I'm going to get that thing. Wrong. I like to say that because it has nothing to do with what the state's trying to do. And any other example, like, whoa, what do you mean? Okay, so, clusters of activity, business clusters, occur naturally. And they occur in space, they occur in land, right? My basic training is in what in other worlds would be called land use economics. In my field, it's got a different name, that's what it is. These things occur naturally in clusters. How many times do you see a Home Depot and look across the street and see a Lowe's? Right? Why? Same conditions that brought one, brought the other, right? So these things occur in clusters. And the best economic development occurs when you identify the clusters, and then you try to figure out what's harming those clusters in terms of their ability to function. And then you try to reduce those negative influences in the cluster so that the cluster can grow. That's really good economic development. Saying, I'm going to create a cluster around submarines in the middle of Wichita, Kansas, is probably not so smart. But much of our investment publicly, nationally, is in stuff that can't work. Can't. Because somebody decided, I want that in my district. I want that submarine base in my district. I'm going to get it. No. It doesn't make any sense. It's not how it works. Our goal is to enhance market conditions so that the clusters prosper and the natural economic forces make the area competitive. That's what you're trying to accomplish in modern economic development. It's not about urban renewal. It's not about trying to make something that doesn't exist. It's trying to enhance what is already happening because the natural economic forces make it work. So, what do we know? We know that technology and technology clusters are the key drivers. If you read anything about the structure of the economy in the United States over the last 20 years, all net new jobs in the United States, all net new jobs in the United States come from technology-based enterprises with a life history of under 5 years. Coke's growing. That can't be true. I mean, they just built a whole new building out there. Somebody else laying off somewhere else. All net new jobs in the United States are based in entrepreneurial enterprises in the technology sectors, not sectors, sectors, over the course, by the way, over a 20-year period. And there's a really good book on that called the Location of New Jobs. We're focused on 8 clusters. These are the ones that are key. Notice aerospace is there. Of course it's there. is going to be critical, but we have to diversify our base. So what are we doing as a university? We're working on R&D, workforce, and quality of life. Folks, people who can run these clusters, people who can make these things work, can live anywhere they want. Anywhere they want. They can live in Wichita, they can live in the United States, they can live in Singapore, and you know what? People will pay good money to get them. And so what we're focusing on then is how do we create the R&D that drives the capacity of the cluster to compete? How can we as an institution drive that when we know that there is a tighter link between industrial R&D and the economic future of a region, than much higher than there is between that region's future and university R&D, as much as we like to pretend that's not true. So where are we growing our R&D? In industrial contracts. In aviation, we are #1 in the United States in funded research by industry in aviation. #2 is Georgia Tech, and it is 2.5 times smaller than us. And what I'm encouraging our faculty to do is recognize that link can get them their research dollars. It can get them the base data for their publications, but it can have a huge impact on the future of the area. Quality of life, look, if you don't want to live there, you're not going to be there. If we don't have good schools, good health care, safe environment, decent quality of experiences for people outside of work, decent quality of arts, decent quality of athletics, they're going to go somewhere else. They can't. They can go anywhere. Okay, so what are we doing? Innovation Campus, new curricula. There's some cool stuff going on in curricula, by the way. Absolutely cool stuff. Workforce training and education, R&D. The WATC affiliation is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. We have one step to go, and that's to get our accrediting body to agree. Why is it huge? They're going to be a separate branch, right? Well, we can plan together. People from Wichita State can take courses there. When their students meet our admission standards, they can take courses with us very easily. And we can work with those students from the time they enter WATC to help them raise their sights on what's possible for them. Huge opportunities for the metropolitan area. So, we also have a regional recruitment process, and I may have described this to you earlier, but I think it's useful maybe to repeat it. Any place where we have a major destination, any metropolitan area, because the economy is now a metropolitan center, any metropolitan area where we have a huge destination of goods and services produced in Wichita that are shipped out, we now have as in-state for the purposes of tuition. I've tied requests for enrollment and tuition policy to our economic focus as a region, and we now have 11 million Kansans that we can recruit for the purposes of tuition. Now, 25 to 30% of them will stay in Wichita. I came to Wichita originally thinking I was going to be here a year. Damn, I met a Wichita woman. Really a big mistake. I've been associated with Wichita now since 1973 as a result of meeting a woman who has 3 degrees from Wichita State. So that's how this works, right? You get people here, they like it. But you know what? Those who go back to Dallas, they had a good experience here. Gee, I need some help. Where do I go for help? I got a professor at Wichita State that really was good. Let me give that guy a call. Let me give that woman a call. And I'll bet they'll help me. They probably will. And then we create that relationship and perhaps enhance our business capacity. So, knowing, doing, reflecting, and generalizing is what we're about. This is our core trade zone. Its economic centroid is in Dallas. Dallas is now the largest economy in the Midwest, larger than Houston, and it's growing faster. So the big problem they have now is they can't get labor. And they're having the same problems we are. All right, so what are we doing differently? We're trying to create a new faculty reward system. We have a new tenure promotion process that rewards people who actually do this work. We're pretty excited about that. We are working through applied learning models, badges. We're breaking down courses into half credit hour increments that you can take basically the course over a long weekend and finish your papers later. And so it's hard many times for working adults to commit to 15 weeks. It's not so hard to commit to a long weekend. Even I can figure out how to watch a kid for a long weekend. Right? Just feed them a lot of chocolate and not worry about it, right? Okay, so anyway, the market-based tuition, athletics and the arts, focusing on quality of life. So, the Innovation Campus. First thing I did when I came to Wichita State, first meeting with my executive team, I said, I am never touching that golf course while I'm president. And 6 months later, I said, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? And so we're sitting in my office going, who's going to go get to tell Lou? Lou's my PR guy. Who's going to get to go tell Lou? Not me. I'm not telling Lou. You're the president. You go tell Lou. So anyway, we eliminated the golf course and created what is known as the Innovation Campus. Started out calling it the Tech Park, and it became really clear very quickly that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is to create an integrated approach to the future of education that includes all areas of the university. All areas of the university has to. Now, engineering is going to drive a lot originally because of the nature of what they do. But it is critical that we have the humanities engaged, that we have the social sciences engaged, that we have business engaged, that we have healthcare engaged, and that the arts have a strong presence. All of that has to be there. It doesn't work if that's not all true. Okay, so we are basing much of this on models of university development that are current, that are being used all over the United States. They're simply new around here. I spent 17 years in North Carolina, 16 of them in the mountains of western North Carolina, and there was an old saying around that area that I always loved. Hey, you know that athlete over there? He's pretty good for around here. Pretty good for around here, man. And don't get him out of the small counties because he can't run a lick. But, you know, compared to everybody else, this guy's pretty good. Well, part of what we're doing, and people go, well, this is radical. You know what? We're the 170th member of the Association of University Research Parks. 170th. So while I guess this is pretty radical for around here, it's not radical. It's been around since 1948. Been around since the year I was born. So it's not really very radical. I'm kind of getting to be an old man. So we're basing it on partnerships. That means others are making investments. How much risk do we have in the Airbus building on our campus? How much risk does the university have in the Airbus building? 0. 0. How much risk do we have in the flats, the new apartment building? 0. How much risk do we have in Starbucks? 0. Well, they're going to make some money. Hope so. They'd be really a pig if they didn't. Moving that building off our campus would get rough. But we have 0 risk. What's the reward? They have to work with our students, and they have to engage with us in research. And if they don't want to work with our students, and they don't want to engage with us in research, there are a whole lot of other places in Wichita that are beautiful and that they can locate in. To be on our campus, they have to be involved in an applied learning model, and they have to engage with us in ways to affect the quality of the experience. That's required. We've turned down 6 businesses so far that simply wanted to locate there. And we will turn down others. Okay. So, we're using economic geography to figure out what we ought to be doing. We're trying to create an innovation zone. And by the way, I have been told that kind of rundown little strip mall near the university that was put up for auction, and it got triple what the auction estimator estimated it at. It brought triple. Why? Because the people who wanted it, who bought it, wanted to be here at a university on the move. It brought triple what would traditionally been the market for that piece of property. So it can make a difference very quickly. We aren't even up and running fully yet. So, I'm going to get to this end here. Okay, what are we trying to do? Number one, better education for our students. When I was in college, if I could fill out a multiple guess test, what are the physical characteristics of Neanderthal skulls? I could fill out that properly. I could get an A in the course. Didn't have any idea why I wanted to know that, but if I could memorize and fill it out, I had the knowledge. I just didn't know what to do with it. So then somewhere along the line, we said, oh, we need to run internships. That'll give students better opportunities. That was better. They learned about the Neanderthal skull, and they actually went out on a dig and did something. That's good. That's better. Knowing why and being able to generalize it and being able to explain it to others and work with people not like yourselves and understanding why that's important is absolutely crucial. And so this is about the quality of education for our students, A, number one. Second, lifelong learning options. We know that the amount of information is doubling now at an astronomical rate. A friend of mine estimated a couple years ago that it's doubling now about 5 times a year. About 5 times a year. You'll never know it all. I was like that. That person thinks they're know-it-all. Cool. Yeah. Not if you've been talking to them, because it's doubled since you started talking to them. All right, so lifelong learning options. How am I going to come back? How am I going to learn more? How am I going to make it possible? So we're looking at, we're doing badges. We're looking at aggregating certificates into degrees. We're looking at linking disciplines that never talk to each other. How do we do it so that you get something you need that enhances your education, broadens your base, creates your skill capacities? That's key. Community-based economic prosperity. Everybody has to rise. If we leave out large sections of our population, number one, we can't be successful, and number two, we're not doing economic development. So if the people who live in 67214 don't have opportunities, you know what? We're not doing right. We're not doing right by ourselves, and we're not doing right by the community, and we're sure not doing right by them. We can't afford to waste them, and we sure can't afford to have a bunch of people out there who don't feel like we care about them. That's not going to work for anybody. We are trying to enhance competitiveness. We're trying to be better than everybody else. And if somebody says you think you're better than everybody else, you betcha. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make Wichita the place you want to be. You don't want to go away. And finally, we need state and public support. That is declining nationally. It's declining in Kansas. What that means is we as a state aren't investing in our future. We're saying, we got enough, thank you very much. Latest quarterly reports on economic growth in Kansas, I think we beat Mississippi, if I remember correctly. Woo-hoo! That's not where we need to be. Look, at the end of the day, this is about our children, our grandchildren. What's this area going to be like? What opportunities are they going to have? Are they going to have a first-class education? Are they going to have the ability to live in a community that they want to be in and not feel like they have to move somewhere else? Are we going to help all of our people rise? Are we going to take advantage of their minds and their abilities to make Wichita as globally competitive as it can be? We are Wichita State. Thank you.
Sure.
President Bardo has kindly agreed to answer a couple of questions if people have some.
Dr. Marlon Johnson from Textron Aviation. Thank you for your presentation. I'm very excited about the opportunities you're talking about the Innovation Campus. But one of the areas that I'm particularly interested in is STEM education for the younger grades.
Yeah.
Can you give some perspective on the activity that Wichita State is engaging this younger generation?
Yeah, I don't know that I can tell you all of it, because one of the things I've learned is that as soon as I say I think I know what all's going on, somebody goes, well, you don't know about this program. We're working through our TRIO program to really involve young people. That program has been longstanding at the university. Our engineering college is highly engaged with people, with young people. We sponsor the Best Robotics Fair. One of the main interests I have in bringing in WATC is they get paid to do high school work, and so we can engage with kids younger. And that's a really big asset that they bring to the table. They actually are funded for that, but we're not. So those are just a few of the things we're attempting to do. I think it's crucial that we continue to help people understand it's possible. We're also working to help high school counselors give kids good advice. Because when you say you need 2 maths, it doesn't end with Algebra 1. It's actually a minimum of Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. And that's not necessarily fully understood out in the community. So we're trying to help with that. So there's a lot of pieces to this. Our College of Education is looking at some very different ways of thinking about what they do and how they do it. Now that WATC is likely to be part of us. There's some real opportunities there for synergies and partnerships through that college. And fortunately, the dean of that college and the president of WATC are friends. And so they see each other socially anyway. So now they have reason to get together. So that's just a little bit. Please.
Thank you, President Bardo, for a great presentation. I think there needs to be a lot more emphasis upon the broad nature of the Wichita operations and manufacturing activity.
Yeah.
And I think a lot more emphasis upon how do we integrate the variety of businesses in Wichita with the educational community is crucial. And I think that needs to be a cornerstone, in my mind, in terms of how we can offer great opportunities from an educational perspective, as well as from a reward perspective for our industries in this area.
Yeah, and the key, that's what you notice, the number one issue that I put up there is advanced manufacturing. It's not manufacturing of aircraft. Aircraft manufacturing is critical to us. It represents, I think, about 20% of our economy is tied directly to aviation.
But we have to
Diversify that base,
and the large way you're going to diversify.
the base that make a difference is if you can diversify into other technology areas. And advanced manufacturing processes are the ways in which you can make a lot of that happen. We have in our new engineering building what I believe is the largest robot manufacturing center in the United States, possibly in the world. It can assemble a machine through additive manufacturing that's 29 feet by 9 feet by 6 feet, if I recall. It can test it while it's doing it, and it can assemble it out of titanium, steel, polymers, copper, and run the wires and turn it on, and it's done. And what humans did was design the tool paths, design the upfront capacity. They didn't build them. They didn't build the actual machine. That can be applied to an entire array of things. Composite materials. Composite materials. We are now trying to find a partner company that can take through the FDA process composite materials that we now know will cause bone to regrow. So if a person has a cancer of a leg, say, you take out the cancerous part of the leg, You put in this composite material and the bone grows back through it. It's not any longer just something that's been added, like a hip replacement. The bone actually grows through it. Dentists believe, they tell us, that you could use it in lieu of amalgam in fillings. In which case, in a few years, you no longer have a filling, you have your whole tooth back. Right? Now, can that change the economy of Wichita? You betcha. Our bioengineers have developed, or are developing something that's a lot to me like a Roomba that eats oil. It eats oil. So there's an oil spill, throw these suckers in the water, and it goes and eats the oil. Really important stuff in very different kinds of technologies in very different areas. Please. And then one of them come up here. Thank you.
Pardon me for a follow-up, if I
Yeah.
may. I think operations is a huge opportunity in our area, but there are many other areas of the business operation that we can take advantage of,
Yeah.
not the least of which is the whole marketing and sales area
Absolutely.
that we can bring to bear with some of the businesses in Wichita that are involved in a wide variety of activities that are not just operations oriented, but are very much marketing and sales oriented.
Yeah, absolutely.
That really add to the total scope.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And by the way, I also believe there is a relationship between marketing and sales and anthropology and sociology and psychology that we've not taken advantage of as an institution. There are some really fine marketing anthropologists that we haven't thought through how that all ties together. Absolutely, we can do that. That is, but you have to have the underlying base of the technology-based enterprises across a wide array of the clusters that we have to assure that we have something to work with. Good.
What's the state covering as far as, say, today, as far as your total budget? How much is the state covering? How much is tuition?
Yeah, as of today.
It's a two-part question, so answer that one. Then
Yeah, no, I wish I could tell you. I called right before I came in my folks up in Topeka about where are they, and it's like, yeah, they don't know yet. So apparently they're going home for the weekend.
What was it 20 years ago?
Oh, in terms of, we're getting less money today than we were 20 years ago, not accounting for inflation from the state. So when people talk about tuition has gone up, it has.
Because it's about $300 a credit hour at Wichita State
Yeah.
now for an undergraduate.
Well, yeah, that's about right. I mean, in terms of credit hours. Now, let's talk about what's happened, what's different. When I was here in 1973, I almost didn't take the job because the software package I run couldn't work on the university's computer. And President Alberg made the decision that there were 3 of us he wanted to hire. Therefore, he shut down the operations of the university at noon and at midnight so that we could run our software and get our research done. Shut down everything else so that we could do that. Today, my cell phone has way more computing power. So the expectations around technology are huge and ever-changing. Second, when I was in college, when probably you were in college, if you lived in a dorm, you came with your 2 suitcases and you figured out what to do with yourself. And then at the end of the year, you packed up your 2 suitcases and probably another one because you bought a bunch of junk and you went home, right? That's not what the expectation is today. We've got a waiting list for Shocker Hall. It's about $3,000 to $4,000 a year more to live in Shocker Hall than it is to live in Fairmont Towers. I can't get people to live in Fairmont Towers, but I can get a waiting list at Shocker Hall.
How are they paying for it?
Yeah, total different. Well, what happens is parents want their students to have good experience, and so they're willing to pay for that to get the experience. So it's a very different set of expectations. Final thing is, the people that will make this work here can make exactly the same thing work in Singapore or Berlin. The competition is now global, and it changes fundamentally what we're paying. And it's changing fundamentally our ability even higher in a lot of fields. And then you add to it the issues we're having now about international people coming, and we got a problem. Our applications from international students are down about 50% over last year. People don't want to come to the United States right now. They're afraid.
Do you think the enrollment not increasing with all these new
I don't
programs?
know.
Is
We got a lot of
declining?
freshmen.
No, it's declining because of the cost of higher ed. They
It's
can't afford it.
declining. The international issue is declining because people are afraid to come to the United States right now. And it doesn't matter whether you're from the Middle East or from India, or it doesn't matter. They don't differentiate. They're going to Canada instead. And that's a big problem for the United States. We got to figure that one out. I get that we want to change some things. We better change them pretty fast because we can't sustain that long term. Not right. It won't work. Please.
Dr. Vardo, I just had the privilege to serve on the board of the World Trade Council for several years. And this is not a question. Just want to say thank you. We heard you address this group about 3 years ago, and you had a vision. And it's really inspiring to see that vision coming to reality. And as a part of the World Trade Council board, we want to tell you that we are looking forward on how we're going to follow you and be part of this effort and this vision to make this a reality. Because it's not just words. We have seen in the last 3 years what's happening, and we want to be a part of it.
And we want you to be a part of it too. Thank you.
Make sure that this group is going to be behind you 100%.
Thank you very much. You know, the difference between vision and insanity is action. And so we're trying to get something to happen in Wichita that is what I think is most fun, is it's been adopted, it's been adapted, and it's moving across the whole metro area. It's not just the university, it's exciting times. Thank you, it's a great day to be a shopper. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bardo. Very inspiring words indeed about the partnership that exists between Wichita and where Wichita needs to go for the future. One of the things that's absolutely critical to Wichita's success is international trade. Wichita is, in terms of metro areas in the United States, #3 in the country in per capita exports. And that's despite the fact that a lot of our aircraft manufacturing gets exported through Seattle, and so those aren't even included in those statistics. So international trade is absolutely critical to Wichita's, not just economic growth, but more importantly to its economic development, as President Bardo said. In recognition of World Trade Week, we have a proclamation that the governor has been kind enough to send, and I'd like to welcome Cheng Liu to come up and read the governor's proclamation.
Dr. Bardo is a hard person to follow. I mean, he's a speaker. There are two things I'm afraid of in my life. Number one is math. And you mentioned Algebra 1, Algebra 2. My hands start to sweating. And the second thing is dental appointment. I have one coming up tomorrow. I guess I can tell my dentist I'm canceling it because I can potentially grow my tooth. Right. All the jokes aside. To the people of Kansas, greetings. Whereas World Trade Month provides an opportunity to acknowledge the importance of international trade in an increasingly global economy, and whereas Kansas is very much a part of this global business community, with total annual export sales in excess of $10 billion, and whereas Kansas leads the world in the export of general aviation aircraft, and whereas Kansas helps feed the world through the export of agricultural commodities, and whereas Kansas businesses of all sizes contribute innumerable quantities of goods and services to the international market, whereas this year's International Trade Celebration events will be held on May 11th in Wichita and on May 18th in Kansas City, and whereas World Trade Month provides the opportunity to acknowledge the efforts of Kansas business leaders who promote international trade and the benefits that affect all Kansas citizens. Now therefore, I, Sam Brownback, Governor of the State of Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2017 World Trade Month in Kansas and urge all citizens join in by celebrating the state's limitless potential for international trade, increased economic activity, job creation, and prosperity for all. Done at the Capitol in Topeka under the Great Seal of the state this 20th day of April 2017 by the Governor, Sam Brownback, Secretary of State, Chris Kobach, Assistant Secretary of State, Eric Rocker.
I'd now like to introduce Jeff Blubaugh to make a proclamation on behalf of the Mayor of Wichita.
Good evening, everybody. The mayor actually called me right before I headed over here, and unfortunately he did want to join us tonight, but Tuesday he spent the evening in the ER with a kidney stone, so he's still going through some pain, so he definitely wishes he was here rather than dealing with that. So, the City of Wichita Proclamation, whereas the Wichita has participated in the international economic and world trading system through the export of general aviation aircraft for the past several decades, enjoying the position as the air capital of the world. And whereas through this participation, Wichita has become increasingly aware of the importance of continuing for expiration of many goods and services now manufactured in our city by large, medium, and small companies, and the result of the economic benefits to Wichita employment, housing, retailing, tax base, and schools. And whereas Wichita World Trade Council provides a system for area businesses to promote international trade by conducting monthly programs featuring ambassadors and council generals, trade commissioners, or trade delegations, and area company export successes and strategies. Now therefore be it resolved that Jeff Longwell, Mayor of the City of Wichita, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim May 8th through the 12th, 2017 as World Trade Week in recognition of the World Trade Council's 41st anniversary World Trade Week honoring Wichita State University.
Of course, what really happens is private businesses create opportunities and create jobs through international trade. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dan Meyer, who is going to present an award on behalf of the World Trade Council, recognizing an outstanding Wichita business for their contributions to international trade.
I'd like to echo the comments earlier. President Bardo, great presentation. I think it's an exciting time to be at WSU. And I think it's also an exciting time to be a part of the World Trade Council, because I think together we can make some very interesting things happen in the future. The World Trade Council has recognized local businesses for numerous years here that do an excellent job in international business. And most of the who's who in town, the successful companies, if you look at those who have won the award in the past, many of them appear are still very successful companies in town. So tonight we're going to recognize another company, but before I do that, I wanted to let you know that the council, and I'm especially happy that Dean is here tonight for this, because this award will always be known as the Dr. Dharma De Silva Excellence in International Business from now on. Tonight we're going to recognize Cargill Protein Group. They're very active in the world. They're involved in 4 different countries. They're also very visible here in Wichita, especially lately. And so tonight, Pat Bringer, who is the Vice President International with this group, will accept the award. So I'd like for him to come up and present it to him. And I think he's going to share just a few comments with us. So.
Sure. Thank you, Dan. Thank to Grant Thornton and to the World Wichita Trade Group. We appreciate the recognition that you give to Cargill. President Bardo, I think he's left the room. I echo a lot of the comments that he said. One of the things that our CEO has said frequently recently is that the pace of change will never be as slow as it is today. And so that speaks to innovation and things that are going on in the world. Is the pace of change is changing rapidly. It's certainly changing rapidly for Cargill. Just a little bit about what we do. So we're known now as the Cargill Protein Group, and we have had a lot of change in our business over the last year, and I'll speak to that in a little bit. But we will, as a company, as a protein group, not Cargill overall, but as a protein group, our Wichita-based businesses, we will export this year approximately $1.5 billion of the products that we produce will generate $1.5 billion. Of our total protein group businesses, we will export approximately 13% of that business. So exports are incredibly important to our business, and they're an area of our business that's going to continue to grow. So very important, something that we look forward to and increasing and growing as we go forward. And it has been a big year from a Cargill perspective. There was lots of news over the last year about Cargill potentially moving our headquarters out of the city of Wichita, and as one of the employees for Cargill, and I think for my colleagues here today, the majority of us were very relieved when we heard that we were going to stay in Wichita. It's a great community. It's one that most of us have been here for a long, long time. And we're really appreciative of the community, the city of Wichita, the state of Kansas in making that all happen. So anyone that knows where the Wichita Eagle building currently resides, that building is currently being brought down, and on that particular area of land is where we will be building our brand new headquarters, which we're very excited about. So somewhere around the fall, September to December of 2018, we'll be in a new building. I will say that this award comes with a certain amount of bittersweetness, and that is because the person that I've worked with the closest over the last many years relative to the Trade Council is Dr. DeSilva. And I talked to Dr. DeSilva probably 6 weeks to 8 weeks ago about this particular award. And so for him not to be here tonight makes it bittersweet. And I wish he was here to help present this award, because he was very important to this particular group. Very, very passionate individual. All of you that know Dr. Silva, need a lot of passion, care about the youth of this country and the city of Wichita. And multiple phone calls that I had with Dr. DeSilva over the last many years on groups of people that we would bring in visiting Cargill. And he was a very persistent individual. And there were certain things that maybe weren't going to work just right for me. He would keep at it. And I don't think there was ever a phone call that I had with Dharma where I didn't hang up the phone, where I had a big smile on my face just because of the kind of individual he was. So on behalf of Cargill, thank you very much for this award. We appreciate it.
We heard some very inspiring remarks from President Bardo, and of course, the chain continues to the entire Wichita State community of just tremendous collaboration with the World Trade Council and with the business community as a whole. At this time, I'd like Dean Anand Desai from the Barton School of Business to come make some of his remarks.
Good evening, and I'll be brief because I know I'm the only one standing between you and the door. I want to thank Ted and Dan for putting on a great event. A special thank you to Dima. This means a lot to us. Thank you for gracing this occasion. I want to thank Dr. Bardo. I know he had to leave. There was an emergency phone call. He had some insightful comments about the university as a student-driven innovation center hub of educational, cultural, and economic activity for South Central Kansas. I also want to acknowledge some of our Barton School faculty members that are attending today. So would you please rise, folks, from members of the Barton School family. As many of you are aware, the university is in the midst of a $250 million Shock the World campaign. A major piece of this campaign is the private funding for a new business school building. Those of you who have spent countless hours in Clinton Hall, you will understand why we are planning this new building. Our vision for this building is that it will be student-centered. It will be designed to bring our alumni and business partners to interact, mentor, and engage in the education of our students. Through this collaborative effort, we will inspire our students to be innovative and entrepreneurial, much along the lines that Dr. Bardo mentioned earlier. Through this collaborative effort, we will graduate students who will have both the technical and professional skills to launch their careers on day one. Dr. Bardo, in one of his slides, and I don't know if you caught it because he didn't particularly point to that, talked about an innovative concept at Wichita State University called market-based tuition. And through this program, and I especially want to mention this because, Pat, you are here, we have developed a customized program for a certificate in supply chain management, specifically geared to the needs of Cargill. So that demonstrates our willingness, our eagerness to partner with businesses and help them develop the talent that they need. This is what Wichita State is about. I also want to reaffirm the Barton School of Business's commitment to furthering the relationship between the WT Council. Last November, I met with the executive board and discussed several ways in which we can grow the partnership between the Barton School and the WT Council. We look forward to working with you on several different initiatives. For example, we ask that you provide intercultural protocol advice to our students, to facilitate business panels, serve as project consultants, and mentor our students. We've started a search to hire a Barton Distinguished Chair in International Business, and my expectation is that this endowed chair professor will work closely with you in the areas I just indicated. Finally, I will conclude my remarks by conveying our thanks to Standard Beverage Corporation for the reception and the social, for Cargill Meat Solutions for the excellent banquet, and to Grant Thornton for sponsoring the International Business, the Dharma de Silva International Business Excellence Award. Please join me in thanking these businesses for their sponsorship. Thank you, and have a safe drive home.
Just a couple of housekeeping details. We do have certificates to thank you, Dean, and we've got a certificate for President Bardo, if you would make sure he gets that, that would be great. And if the executive board could join for a photo commemorating this event.